Every fisherman, every fisherwoman really wants a knot. To tie the kind of knot that's simple, one that's going to last and be used in all the fishing situations they're going to play into. They want a knot that can take the stress, the strain that's going to be imposed upon it. They want a knot that they can rely upon for the duration. They want a knot that's made of the material that is so good that they can trust in that material that's going to hold through all of the pressure, through all of the strain, through all of the endurance of the fight. That's what they're looking for. And I have just such a knot that they can tie. It's called the love knot. This knot is a knot that's especially good when you want to tie together a husband and a wife. When you want to make the two one flesh, this happens. The love knot takes place when they say, I do. They give themselves to each other. They put their lives in the hands of God. They allow themselves to be tied together. This is the knot that gives them a lifetime of love. Marriage. Marriage is just a little bit more than that starry gaze in the couple's eyes. Marriage is a commitment. It's more than just the little arrows that you get out of Cupid there. It's a commitment to each other. It's a commitment to Christ. This is the love knot that Paul writes about. This is the one that he talks about when stress and strain and pressure come upon it. And that happens. All the love can change. All those things can change in an instant when attitudes and egos come in. When the wife says, it's my way or the highway, when the husband says, no one's will but mine be done. Wife, submit to your husband as to the Lord. How often is that statement used? It's taken completely out of context. It's used completely inappropriately. So we're going to put it back into its proper context, into its proper setting here, into its proper use. Marriage is equal. It's between both. This text is for both husband and wife. They each must come to that point where they want to remain with each other, to commit themselves totally to each other, just as Christ committed himself totally to them, totally to the church. They don't do it because they have to, because they do it because of the reverence that they have for Christ. It's just as Christ gave himself up for the church. That's how you have to give yourself up for your spouse. This is the kind of love. But the text doesn't stop there. It says, wives, be subject to your husband as the church is subject to Christ. And husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. This is not a 50-50 marriage. Sure, there are times in the marriage where kind of roles are defined, where the husband is going to go over here, you're going to make all of the money, you're going to be the one who pays all the bills, does all the fixing around the house, make sure the car is repaired, the garden is weeded, the plants are trimmed, everything that it takes. And then the wife is going to be over here, and she's going to be the one who does all of the cooking, all of the cleaning, the raising of all of the kids, making sure that they get off to school, that all the day's events are, and that dinner is on the table when the husband comes home. Well, that's only part of it. It goes further. This is a sacrificial kind of relationship. This is one where you go out and you say, I'm going to take and do something. I'm going to sacrifice of myself to make my spouse's life easier. I'm going to do something to lighten their burden. I'm going to take a moment of my time each and every day. I'm going to do something to sacrifice, to give to them so that they know that I am sacrificing myself, my time, my energy just for them. I'll give myself. I'll do of mine because that's how Christ loves me. That's how Christ loves the church. It applies to both husbands and wives. This isn't the kind of relationship where you say, what can the church do for me? Rather, it's the kind of relationship that says, what can I do for the church? Husbands, if you want your wives to obey you, you have to ask yourself and remind yourself each and every day, what am I going to do? How am I going to sacrifice today for my wife? What am I going to do? What am I going to give up? What time, what energy am I going to do for her? That doesn't mean that you're going to go home and, well, give up the afternoon of fishing. It probably could mean that. It probably means that you're not going to sit around at the TV and watch sports with a cold one in your hand. It means that you're going to go out. You're going to be busy. You're going to be sweating. And you're going to get injured. You could get cut. But those are the sacrifices that you have to make for her so that she knows that you will endure anything for her. It's your sacrifice of your time and your energy that you do for her. Don't refuse her of this simple sacrifice. Don't give her threats and fears. Your wife will see your sacrifice. She will understand exactly what you are doing, and she will do likewise for you. Each one sacrificing for each other. That's the kind of relationship that Paul is getting at here. In every marriage, there is some stress, some strain. There's some pressure that comes in, and that all combines to begin to make some little tiny tears, some cracks and some breaks, and, well, our text has an address for that too. It says Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. He did it to dedicate, that is to sanctify her, the church, to God by his word, after making it clean by washing in the water, in order to present the church to himself in all its purity, all its beauty, and faultless. Well, there I went. I used one of those $100 pastoral words, sanctify. Sanctification. What does it mean? What are we getting at here? Let me break it down kind of simple for you. It means to be made holy, to be made right, to be free of sin. In other words, it involves a spiritual change, a change within you that you change spiritually. It's an internal change that happens. And just such an internal change happens when two Christians come together in the love knot. They are bound together in that love knot. They come together, they are baptized Christians. That means that they have united themselves to Christ. Christ is united with them. All of their sins are forgiven. It is all washed away. They have a new beginning in Christ. A new beginning for a new relationship. A new relationship that is now founded on Christ, that is built on his forgiveness and love. Just as a rod and a reel and the line, they all have to work together to absorb the stress, to absorb the strain, to take the pressure of the strike, to endure during the battle. But all that whole time, the material that it's made of holds together. The knot holds under all of the pressure, all the strain. It all comes down to the knot. If it doesn't hold, everything falls apart. When marriage is built on Christ, when Christ is in the middle, when he is the one that's holding it all together, well then, you begin to see the two of you begin to relate, to deal with each other as Christ would deal with the church. You begin to recognize your own faults. You begin to recognize your own weaknesses of the flesh. You don't begin to use those things as a weapon to wound or destroy the other. You recognize that the struggles, the pressure, the strain, the stress that's coming in, these are all testing waters to prepare you for times to practice forgiveness and love. That's what it's for. The knot brings into mind here the fifth petition of the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. The fifth petition of the Lord's Prayer brings marriage and forgiveness into a whole new retrospect, into a whole new light. Maybe we should say that fifth petition of the Lord's Prayer this way. Forgive me my sins as I forgive your faults and weaknesses, bringing this forgiveness now into a purifying element in the marriage. We recognize that it's Christ's Spirit. It's his Spirit that holds the whole thing together. When a good love knot is tied, when it's a good one, and it's a strong knot, like divorce and separation aren't there because Christ's forgiveness, Christ's love is there. It's his forgiveness, it's his love that repairs all of the little cracks, that repairs all of the stress and the strains of daily life. It's his Spirit, the adhesion that pulls it all together, that holds it all together, that makes it all work. If the marriage is going to stay together, It doesn't stay together because of the authority over one another. It doesn't stay together because of the power of sex or the power of love or just for the sake of the children or not because of some legal reasons. It stays together because of the binding power of love that is made in the love knot. This is the kind of love that Christ has for the church. It's love that moved Christ so much that he allowed sharp, big, heavy spikes to be pounded into him. It's the kind of love that allowed Christ to get onto a spiny, prickly cross to be hung between heaven and earth until he dies. It's the kind of love that brings Christ back to life even after death. It's the kind of love that cries out from the cross and says, Father, forgive them. It's the kind of love that endures through all of the pressure, all of the strain, that takes all of that, has no breaks in it, no problems. It's the kind of love that will not break under tremendous pressure, tremendous stress, tremendous strain. This is the kind of love that reaches out, that takes hold of you and I, that takes sinners like us, straying people going along, and claims them as his own, that brings us into his body, makes us part of his church, that waits for his bride to come back to him, that waits to start the marriage. It's the love that comes to you who believe, that you can rise again no matter what happens of the stress, the strain, and the pressures that you're under to a new life, even after death. This is the love knot. This is the knot that exists in every marriage if that marriage is to succeed. This is a love you have to learn. This is a love that you learn as you love your own body. This is how you love one another. In other words, you go out there and you have to come to that point where you say, this is my privilege to love and cherish you, my spouse. It's just as Christ loved the church. We all make up the body of the Christ. We all make up the church. It's a mystical union between Christ and the church. That same mystical union is there between husband and wife. They are no longer two separate individuals. They are one, body, mind, soul, and spirit. Christ is the one who died. So Christians, they are tied together in this love knot. They can't be thinking that they are separate or that they can separate. To be separated, it would be like to tear apart your own body. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of heartache involved in it. If you will not tear apart your own body, if you will not go through that kind of pain, that kind of suffering, then don't tear apart what God has joined together. Amen.